Everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Pact of Ice and Fire. I'm Brian. I'm joined, as always, by Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Brian.
So, pretty interesting episode. I thought episode number 6. You know, we're still a little bit slow after Rook's rest, but I did think we're setting the scene for future stuff that should be fairly exciting. And I do think a lot of like the stuff that happened in this episode was exciting.
Mhm.
Um, we had dragons burning people, then dragons forcibly taking people as their riders, that was a fun scene to be sure. But yeah, where do you want to start this one?
I guess I just start by saying I definitely feel like this episode they kind of stretched certain things out a bit, right? You can see that they're trying to make multiple seasons because why not? This season's been fantastic. I do think this episode was at the same caliber as the rest of the season, but there were just things like, I don't know how necessary it is to have the dragon like seek him out instead of, or not necessary. I just meant it was an interesting choice, I thought, to do that instead of, I thought they had set up the last episode to be like, hey, so we're basically going to be going to people with some of our blood and like ask them to ride dragons. Instead they're like, nope, only the really rich people can do it.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's a great point. So in the books, it's really more like an open thing. Like, yeah, Targaryens have a lot of, children out of wedlock. It's just going to happen. It's an open thing. It's kind of even in the book, like said that like those kids on Dragonstone were like not like brought in, but it was kind of celebrated. Like, oh, you had a kid with a Targaryen. Like the Targaryens are like gods. That's awesome. So it's more of like an open thing. And I feel like because Game of Thrones set up, especially like Jon Snow and Ramsay Snow as like being bastards was like an entirely defining characteristic of their characters in a negative way, and one went one way and one went the other with it. Along with the, Baratheon's children, Cersei's children's being potentially bastards, that being a big thing. It would kind of be weird for like people who aren't like as into the books and stuff to all of a sudden be like, wait, but these bastards are fine. Like, what's happening?
Well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I guess to me, it's I don't think it's that complicated. It's just kind of like, yeah, right. Jon is like brought in and treated equal to Catelyn's other kids, and Catelyn in this particular is right, kind of not the nicest lady. And then right, the Gendry thing. Gendry looks just like Robert, but Robert pretty openly like loves his bastards, right? But it's more of a Cersei thing.
Yeah.
But I would say with these, I mean, I still feel like we've seen at various points, like it doesn't seem unrealistic to me in this world that like, yeah, bastards exist, right? So they're not necessarily, not necessarily celebrated, but it's a known thing that like tons of people have Targaryen blood, and like for sure they brag about it. So while they're not maybe like, it's not like Rhaenyra is like, hey, you guys want to come eat dinner with me? You have the same hair color. Like for sure they acknowledge. I don't think there's like as much of like a disdain, and it's like, to me, it's kind of like, with Darkland, it's like what Darkland's grandmother's grandmother. I mean, it kind of would make more reason to me. Like it's more about the amount of blood you have, not the fact that you have just a little bit of it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was, so it was an interesting choice, but I think, like you said, it makes sense for the show.
Tough for him. Also, for the record, and I'm sure all the people who are book readers made up the the grandmother Ariana Targaryen, not a named member of the Targaryens in the books.
That's a Martell name. That's both.
Yeah, so very interesting there. But he does die trying to claim a dragon, so he does, seemingly have some Targaryen blood in there. I guess they just felt like they needed to put a name
Wasn't
to
yeah,
it.
there was like I think I remember that in the where I think like Darkland might be like vaguely related to Targaryen. I mean,
Yeah, well, he does die the same way, so like,
yeah. Or like honestly, if they're going this route though, why not just like, hey, let's hit up the Baratheons, right? There's a bunch of their daughters that one of them was trying to marry.
Yeah, with that like, I don't know. I assume given everything that happened with the Baratheons at the end of last season,
yeah,
she's not Rhaenyra's not particularly enthused to go talk to them right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's like the big thing because
but there, I guess the Baratheons. That's a good point. But
he would be the
there's other, and there's a couple others. I mean, the Targaryens recently married into a lot of the Vale families. At least two or three.
Yeah,
the Royces, the Aarons. I feel like there might be one other, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, but did any kids come back? Because like in the book, one of Jaehaerys's daughters marries one of the Vale, house but she dies in childbirth, which was very sad part of that. And then obviously Daemon, and he doesn't have any kids.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought there was one the generation before, but I would have to look.
Yeah, I'd have to go back. But yeah, I mean that scene where he is trying to claim Sea Smoke, very good to show that like it's gonna take like the dragon being a willing participant in this, because it's not like he was a bad person or character or like in any way was like going to betray Rhaenyra. Like he went on the stupid ass mission to King's Landing with Rhaenyra. Like that's pretty loyal. His family, his father got his head cut off by Sir Christian. Like they're down for Rhaenyra, like 100%. Ride or literally die. So just Sea Smoke was like, no, I don't like this guy.
I know it's kind of funny because it was like Sea Smoke's like, nah, screw this, dude. I'm gonna find someone who looks like my old like I guess this guy is his brother from another mother. Like
yeah, exactly. Literally, yeah. He's just like, no way. So yeah, sad for him. Seems like a horrible way to go. Also unfortunate for the dragon tamer or keeper.
It was a good scene. The way they built it up, and then he's like, I did it, and then just
like
he knew it was coming, obviously.
Yeah, so very unfortunate there. But fun scene. And then I guess do we want to talk about Sea Smoke? Sea Smoke claiming Adam, not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, we can. It's a pretty quick scene. It's odd. I kind of thought it wasn't necessarily. I mean, it makes sense if a dragon's chasing after you, but based on the way they built Adam in the show, and based on what we just know from him, basically being a pretty eager to claim his stake. It seemed a little weird to me that he was so hesitant and running, and that the dragon literally had to be like, "You idiot! Like, get on me."
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's never been around a dragon, right?
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. I mean, you can talk a big game, but when it comes down to it, I was just kind of surprised by how, like I said, it was like, I think at a certain point, it's like, probably would have killed you by now, like if he's seeking you out like this.
Do you think Corlys will, all of a sudden be like, "Oh, that's my boy right there"? Like, or do you think now Corlys is like, "Okay, still, I wish you had been more into ships, but this is fine."
Yeah, 100%. That was just pretty funny. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess dragons are great or whatever, but it's ships. That's really where it's at.
Yeah, well, that's what's kind of weird, but I guess like it goes to the book too. Like the Valerians are never. I don't think Valerians on their own are ever dragon tamers, right? And he's got no Targaryen. I mean, is it said like the Valerians and the Targaryens intermingle a bit, right, throughout time, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
Enough where like one, right? I would assume the Sea Smoke probably has some Targaryen blood. Is that fair to say? To some
Yeah,
degree.
I mean, I think Adam and Alan through Corlys have some Targaryen
Yeah,
blood, like
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
in
so
the
that
in
so
you
that's got
know,
to be what it is, because like the Valyrian, right? Because the Valyrians aren't dragon tamers
no.
at all, but they are Valyrians, so maybe
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
like the interesting thing about their house is like they came over just like the Targaryens did, but they were never dragon riders, at least in the book.
Well,
Uh,
that kind of brings forth the point, like where it's like, right, and we talk about like, the blood and the amount of blood. It might not even necessarily be, is it being a Targ, is it being a Targaryen, or is it just having like Valyrian blood? And the Valyrians, right? Like maybe their family just happened not to be dragon tamers. The first few could have just been more subservient, shy to it, or whatever. And obviously, it's just carried down through family tradition. So I guess that is why, like, I could even set up like next episode when they're kind of like not any, because they don't want people to figure out like, hey, it's not really just it's not because we're Targaryens. Like,
yeah,
basically, if you have ancestors from this place, you can get this.
yeah, it's very interesting in the book. It's kind of like said that, and I guess more theorized because it's not like said outright. Because like the history book, even Fire and Blood, like is really just like from Aegon on, but like it's implied that there was some kind of blood magic done with the Valerians and like the dragons to the point where like Targaryens will have kids that die and are like half dragon, half human hybrid like children. Like they're like scaled. So there's like a weird blood magic element that is not carried over to the show. I guess like they just think that's a little, a little too far.
Yeah, it's too much. Well, I mean, and that's just like kind of like old stuff. It's not stuff that we actually see.
Mm.
I do think that there's some cursed Targaryen children that, and maybe one has like scales or something, but not necessarily saying it's a dragon or anything.
Yeah, yeah, because the daughter that Rhaenyra like miscarries,
Mm-hmm.
that one of them was like one of the things said that like that daughter had like scales and stuff and like didn't live through when she tried to birth her. So it's all very interesting, like a weird like layer that I don't even know like if it's supposed to be implied that even the Maesters are a little like uncomfortable with that aspect of things. And it's
Yeah,
kind of like, gone over. But yeah, really interesting. Very excited to see Adam out there. Adam is a great character from the books, just from what is said about him. I don't want to spoil too much, obviously, but like very much looking forward to his addition to the story now.
yeah, it'll be cool to see more people riding dragons, right? That's obviously going to add to the war. I guess that brings us, we can go to the green side, right? A little bit. Or, I mean, there's a lot on the blacks we haven't covered either. So,
Yeah. Well, so what the last big part for the blacks is I guess there's two. There's the kiss, um, that I thought was fine. Like Rhaenyra is going through a lot.
yeah.
Myseria's really been there for her. It makes sense. It was a weird transition from the topic immediately before that. I don't know if
It's like a comfort thing, and then they both just lingered, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
she
she was like talking about like how she was, like molested and like raped by her father. Like I do not like I totally cool with Rhaenyra and Mysaria like having a thing, obviously, but I don't think it would have played if Rhaenyra had been a man and the same story had been told, and then she like went in for a kiss. You know what I mean? I think it would have been like, oh, this is a
yeah.
lot, but
Oh,
different dynamic.
it wasn't a man though, so we don't have to go down that route.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't,
And
Um,
yeah, it was, I don't know. That is true. I thought it was kind of more just like them finding comfort in each other.
no,
And
definitely that was like
definitely could the writers have probably chosen
a
a
different
bit more
moment.
selective. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think they needed to include that. But yeah, I mean, it was fine. You kind of got that vibe, anyways, even in the books, right? Like it seemed like
Oh
maybe.
yeah, Rhaenyra is like bisexual in the books, like very like.
Yeah, well, that for sure. Well, in the books, I don't really know how much they talk about Rhaenyra. I think Mushroom, there's a lot of stuff saying, yeah, she's down for anything, really.
Yeah, a
But
mushroom.
I don't necessarily know how much it touches, but I thought in the show there was heavy,
Oh yeah.
She was into Allison vibes, which was an interesting thing just because I know we've said this a million times on this already. Allison and her Allison's like 10 years older than her. They don't have a relationship like that. But I thought in the first season, it did kind of put forth that some of this was that, Rhaenyra kind of loved Allison and Allison couldn't reciprocate that love.
Yeah, I mean, Rhaenyra has like a pretty honestly baller like pickup line where she's like, "Yo, like my dragon soon be able to have 2 riders on it." It was like, oh, all right, like she's
because some people are like, "Oh no, I think that it's just like that seems like she's hitting on her." Like,
yeah, like laying on each other, reading in the Godswood. Like, come on, it's not that subtle.
Yeah, so they definitely how they portrayed Rhaenyra in this and the way they've been building this relationship for a while. It makes perfect sense. It'll be interesting to see how it impacts the plot, because I'm not sure how can to include that and really get into their romance. How conducive is that to the plot as a whole? I'm not entirely sure yet. We'll have to see how that unfolds, but I mean, I guess that's like Damon has the weird thing going on with
Alice Rivers. Yeah, I mean,
don't really know what's going on there. I don't think anyone does. He just and what was the last scene? He's just sobbing. Like it's like this dude is just getting lit up. Like it literally just cuts. It's like, oh, all right, now he's just watching 2 of his family members fuck again. Like,
right, yeah.
Oh, and now he's crying. Yep.
I mean, he's going through it. He's going through the ringer. There's no doubt. But I did like, if we want to move there, it does seem a little bit like Alice. I don't know if they have a romantic relationship, but I know Alice is like very interested in molding Damon to her will. Like she talked about how, it's going to be the small folk who are going to suffer the most in this war. Like, she wants Damon to approach it in a way that it would lead to the least amount of suffering for them. Maybe there's a romantic undercurrent, but I do think that like their beef's over. I think she's not going to be assaulting Damon with horrible visions, because we have like love seeing Patty Constantine back. I thought he played Viserys awesome in season 1.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Everyone I've talked to, like, that's usually the first actor I hear people praise. Like, even even people who weren't like, I was watching the last episode of my father, and he wasn't the biggest. He was he liked season 1, but he's a little iffy on it, and he loves this season. But he'll always, like, if we talk about that first season, he'll reference his acting. He did a fantastic job.
He did, and like brought a lot more to the character than was on the, and that's credit to the writers too. Obviously made Viserys a much more interesting character, where I think in the book it's really like, okay, he's just like a guy who kind of like became king and then was like, I just want everyone to love me, and I like having feasts, and
I like to party. I like people fighting. Like,
I'm not gonna like he in the book he leaves the realm in a horrible place because he's just like completely checked out and like doesn't want to have any hard conversations or like deal with like anything bad. In this, he still doesn't love the confrontation stuff, but like a lot of it is like, he was sick and like
he's a much better king in this version than he was in the books. In the books, he is completely negligent. It's all Otto Hightower, and maybe that is like, even though Otto Hightower is described as like haughty and uppity, and that's certainly the case, he's got maybe a little more of a right to, like, where he really does. In this version, it seems a little more presumptuous, probably just because, like, I guess at times Viserys, does Viserys rule with an iron fist? No, but in this version of the show, when we have Daemon as he is on guys like Aemond, it's kind of like maybe not being an iron fist isn't so bad, you know?
Yeah. No,
and his, I would have to go back to reference. I don't remember him being really into the history stuff at all in the books.
Yeah, I don't think he builds a giant. People jokingly say he has a giant Lego set of old Valeria.
It didn't seem like Viserys in the books vibes. Like,
yeah, right, right. But I liked that. A little bit more.
It's cool.
You feel the legacy of the Targaryens being one of the last houses of this like formerly amazing civilization that was destroyed. But no, I love seeing him again, and like Daemon stuck in this, in what was the worst day of his life. I think we can say like the day where he was unnamed the heir, the day where he kind of had to like awkwardly and sheepishly answer for his drunken toast of although the show didn't show him saying it and didn't show him in this admitting to it, so I guess it's still unclear if he said heir for a day, but also the fact that he doesn't refute it is also like probably did say that stupidly. Well, he was drunk. He got lost in the moment, I think. But yeah, I think this is great to see Paddy Constantine back. And then after he has the conversations with Alice Rivers, one hooks him up, kills. What was it? Grover Tully? That was the name, right?
Yeah, Grover Tully. I think kind of what happened here is that we don't really. I mean, we kind of know Alice is creating these hallucinations, but they kind of want to make it an up in the air thing. Where is it? Is it the curse of Harrenhal? Is it her?
Yeah.
And I basically think she just keeps arguing, kind of with Daemon. I think just to kind of, she wants to kind of set the basis for the relationship so that Daemon and show that she has a knowledge, which like she does have a weird knowledge base on him, his family, the political undertow. But again, I guess a maester. She basically wants to set it up so that Daemon is going to ask her for help, right? And sure enough, and then it was kind of interesting because what is the first name of the Lord? He's a knight, right? The Strong who's like kind of oversees the Castilian, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Simon Strong, I believe, is his name.
So Simon kind of even. I don't know. I felt like there was a little like glint when he's like, oh yeah, like he was like Alice, I kind of feel like he's in on it a little bit.
Oh, definitely. He gets to be like I'm just helping you, Daemon, like front, and then like behind it's like, yeah, make him have sex with his mother in his dream. That'd be fucking hilarious. Yeah. Like, what? Well, I'm just saying, it would be like pretty traumatic, right?
Yeah, no, that was. Yeah, man. Oh, it doesn't really like cross any new boundaries.
Oh, right.
It's like, oh man.
I mean, I'll guess I'll do it, but like I don't really see what we're getting out of this.
and all right, sister, that's one thing. Grandma, but mother, come on.
Yeah, right.
No Targaryen marries their mom, okay?
Yeah. Oh man, gross. Anyways, but yeah, whoever Simon, Alice, Harrenhal itself decides to give Daemon a vision of like, this is what things would be like if you were a selfish piece of shit and you were actually there for your brother on like the worst day of his life, where he lost his wife and their newborn son all in the matter of like a few hours. Like if you were actually there for him, you could have probably stayed the heir. You could have like still had a relationship with your brother. You would have had to go to the stepstones.
Yeah, it was a great point, right? It really set, and they did such a good job of it, because I just feel like the way they've written it, you don't really think of it that way. You kind of almost do see it from Daemon's perspective, and when he really flips it, you're just like, oh, I kind of forgot how like shitty Daemon is. Like his brother like literally went through everything, and he's just like, hey, dude, so can I like get your job when you die?
Yeah, right.
You know, it would literally be like now it's like, hey, you know, I know dad didn't ever really want to split the business with me. You know, and he dies, but do you think he would split it with me, dude? Like,
Yeah. Right.
like after someone, you know, just lost their family in a car accident.
Right.
And then like, all right, well, fuck you. I'm gonna go on a huge bender and spend all our money on strippers. Like,
Yeah, right.
yeah, that's really what it was. So yeah, Damon's finally kind of starting to see the error of his ways, you know. And you know, I think Rhaenyra, I mean, this has been it's been driving this way all season. Rhaenyra is realizing, like, you know, he's in love with what I represent, but I know, you know, I'll never be able to actually have him.
Yeah.
You know, because Damon's always going to be his own thing, and he's always going to want, want the power I have.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I've been on record in the podcast. I love the Alice Rivers and Damon Harrenhal storyline. Some people don't like it. I feel like online, I don't get that. I think it's super interesting.
So from the books, I do think there's like a vague, I don't think, are they actually in a sexual relationship? I know, but like in the books, I always got the vibe it's like on the border, right? And even in the show, it seems like there's tension between the two of them, right? Like something could erupt.
Definitely.
Yeah, like she's holding it over his head. You know, and you know, but I think Alice Rivers, you know, knowing there's these very, I know she mentions like they mentioned like if she ever met Aemon, but like a Damon, these are very like headstrong, right? Like,
right.
I guess like perceived as like men's men. So she knows that she has something she can wield over them in order, if needed.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see what's up next for Damon and Harrenhal now that Grover Tully is dead. I would imagine there'll be some, ending to the storyline of what exactly happened in the Riverlands with the war crimes. I would imagine something our boy Blackwood. I don't know if he's going to be long for this world after what he did. He's gonna come back and like, oh, isn't that awesome? And David's gonna be like, I have to kill you. I don't know. Like, I mean, we've read the book. We know that there's another Blackwood character that's like very popular in the fandom coming. And I think he was in the preview. If you saw the preview, for that. So, watch out for Benjen Blackwood coming up. He's gonna be everyone's favorite character, I think, the next few seasons. But yeah. So do you want to let's go to the Vale real quick, and then we can wrap it up with everything in King's Landing. Just relatively close-ish. The Vale, the Riverlands, but this huge departure from the book seemingly is going to happen this season with Rhaena, right? That's her name. Yeah. So she in the book has a dragon from one of the eggs that hatch when they go to the Vale. Doesn't seem like that'll be the case. It seems that her storyline at least is seemingly going to be her claiming this sheep stealer dragon in the Vale. So how do you feel about that?
I guess I didn't connect that, to be honest. I thought it was weird, like having them in the, but I assumed they were always just all gonna go to. I mean, they're all supposed to, right? They're supposed to like try to sail to
Pentos, which they did get. They did get the okay. That Prince and Pentos was like, yeah, of course, I fucking love her. I haven't seen her since she was a kid.
I mean, I guess it's like, I guess as long as, I mean, who really cares? Like, as long as you can get those. I don't think she ever flies a dragon, right?
Not in the Dance of the Dragons. Later, no, don't want to spoil too much, but she's not really intimately involved in the dance.
But I'm saying in the books, it's not really a thing with her, right? Like it doesn't really play a role as her flying a dragon, I don't believe.
Not in this part, no. And then she's kind of out of the main Targaryen storyline after
Okay.
that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So it's like if they need to use her as a filler for, is it Nettles?
Yeah.
Who I believe, right? And I think all three of those dragons are all in the same place in the book. So we had kind of said that before. Like
They're all in Dragonstone, yeah.
Yeah, they're all in Dragonstone. Instead, they have them in King's Landing. I think as long as they don't compromise, I do think it's important that is it Aegon and Viserys? I do think it's important that they sail and they follow through with that plot line. I think as long as they're able to do that in a way that makes sense, and then it's fine.
Yeah. So be interesting to see, because Sheepstealer is supposed to be like a very big dragon. So
pretty gross. Like he's the one who's like, just say like it's just like a mutt basically. Just like brown, super ugly.
Right. And
I don't know if it's big as much. I think like I maybe I'm wrong. I thought like the size maybe, but just like really nasty.
Right. Yeah. It's a wild dragon basically, and then Nettles is able to kind of tame it by feeding it sheeps, to the point where people are like, is Nettles even a dragon seed, or is Nettles just able to, get this? That's never really directly said, but I know people like in the fandom question like if Nettles was even a dragon seed, or if Nettles just like figured out a new way on how to tame dragons.
Well, it didn't really seem like she was a dragon seed. There was no indication. No one ever said it. It didn't really seem like she ever, right?
That's the thing. It's like it seems like she wasn't still able to ride a dragon, which is
I don't even necessarily think it's different in here, but I don't think even Hugh, I don't even think it's heavily implied he's a dragon seed, is it? Like, so in the books, there's like more.
It's hard to say. Yeah,
it's kind of like they open it to dragon seeds, right? But then
they really are like, if you think you can do this, come.
Yeah, like in the book. Yeah, in the books. I mean, well, we don't. Mushroom reportedly like tries it and gets his with his pants on fire, right? But that is like it. It's unlikely to be true, but like that is brought forth. That's how many people they let try to ride these dragons. So it's
Well, and the show does a good job to show like they are grasping at straws here. Yeah. Like they got the blockade going, and the food being sent there that we'll get to in the King's Landing part. That's great, but other than that, this war is not going good for them. So yeah, they gotta do this. So I think that'll be interesting. We got to see a baby dragon, a little smaller than I would have liked, given what happens with that dragon in the book.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but how many? But that's a question, is because I believe, but also the kid though, because when he does that, I think he's a little older. He's a little older.
It feels to me that particular part that we're alluding to is not going to be in this season, which it could have been, given like if they kind of sped some stuff up.
Yeah. Well, they stretched more, right? They inserted a lot of more things in, right? Like they have this kind of thing, like what's going to happen with Adam. There's like more rioting in the city. Yeah. They have the whole like Hugh plot line. Like there's a bunch of things that kind of
we have to get through before. Yeah.
What I really saw this episode is I thought it was good, right? I just think like the acting, everything's been awesome. I just saw like a lot of seeds are being planted to like just extend the series, which I mean is good.
I agree. Because I think if they were just looking to go through it like blow by blow, like the book,
it could have started to.
It would have been fast. It would have been like a 3-season show, where I think 4 or 5, depending on how they pace this out.
Yeah, honestly, I think had they from the beginning, they probably could have done it in 2.
Right.
But not. I mean, yeah, we'll have to see. Because obviously the Game of Thrones doesn't have a great history with extending shows and having the writers make their own content within the lore.
Yeah, at least there's a decent guide rail. Although we've had talked about it several times in this episode, they are straying from it. in some interesting ways.
Yeah, no, and especially they probably strayed the most this episode, I would say.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So we'll see. I think what will happen, they'll do, because it's going to take 2 years probably for this next season after this. When they come back, that kid's going to be 2 years older to be more like his age in the book. That dragon is going to all of a sudden have grown like Danny's dragons in between seasons.
Well, yeah, he looks like,
a lot.
so this is how it works in TV. He looks like he's 5, so we can
Yeah.
assume he's like 8, which
Right.
means if he's like, if he's a 8-year-old who looks like a 5-year-old now, in 3 years he's going to be a like a 14-year-old who looks like he's 20. Like that's just how it works. Just how it works. 3 years he's gonna age to 14 and he's gonna be a full-grown man.
Yeah. Tough. Yeah. I think the worst offender of that is the actor who played Bran being so giant.
Oh no, I mean I do feel like they do that in shows sometimes. Nothing wrong with that, but yeah, the Bran one is just like an unlikely coincidence.
Unfortunate, yeah.
Yeah, well, they just got very lucky. It was just kind of funny that he happened to be playing a paralyzed.
Yeah, they're like, okay, so we're not going to be able to do the riding on Hodor's back thing. Let's invent a wagon thing for him to pull instead.
Yeah, how tall is he in real life? Like 6?
Oh, he's over 6 feet easily. He's very tall.
No, like 6'7", 6'8", I'm saying.
Yeah, he's super tall. But yeah, so let's go to King's Landing. Aemond is fully in charge now. He's taking even more control. He's kicking his mother out of the council, just being like, mother, you're too much of a distraction. I need you out of here. Which is very interesting. I guess, what do you think of that, of his decision to really just, push her out?
I think we really see Aemond just coming into his own as King Regent, right? He just sees with her and Kristen, he's like, here are people that have like dug their claws into my council. I just got to weed them out,
Yeah.
And I honestly, I like how he, he's talking to Larys and he's like,
oh man, that was maybe the best part of the episode.
Yeah. He's like, I was not you toad.
The one person who's like potentially as smart as, Larys, just like, and also in a position of power above him and just completely immune to his, like, oh, like my poor, I just want to help. Like, I'm totally just like a servant of the realm. Aemond not suffering that for even one moment. Loved that.
Well, no, Aemond just kind of, sees him as a creature, honestly. Like, basically, like you're this treacherous, like cripple. And that's what brings him to Aegon, which I thought was a good setup. But yeah, I think that's, if you kind of notice, like I thought it was interesting, like the way they have it in the show. Otto kind of is one of the few characters that talks to Aemond like he's not afraid of him, and while still paying him the respect he's craving, because we see like his mom, she literally grabs him by the cheek and is like, "Oh, you're still not over getting bullied in high school, are you?" Literally basically what she says, and he's just like, and we can see like Aemond's finally grown up. He doesn't snap. He's just like, "Thank you for your service." But like he's like, "Yeah, bye. I'm done having you sleep with the King's Garden."
Yeah, that whole situation. Everyone knows, Mom. Just everyone knows if you're not being sneaky. Like, quite frankly, disgusting. But yeah, so that's very interesting. I'm hyped for Otto to come back. Big fan of Otto. I've been sad to have him not in this season. Is he like?
Yeah, great act. I mean, the actor plays him to a tease. Exactly. He is like a less competent high tower version of Tywin. Plays that out pretty perfectly. Yeah, I think right. Aemond can be brash, but he's definitely not stupid, and he knows that he really has no clue what he's doing when it comes to dealing with the small folk, right? Aemond always has his mind on war. So he knows that, he needs it. I think he knows that he needs his grandfather doing all the stuff basically he doesn't want to do. As where Aegon just didn't care about that stuff. Aegon was just flailing around trying to grasp for power. At least Aemond knows what he's good at, is able to do that. And then, we see him finally willing to delegate some of the things that are less of his strength, showing empathy for others, to his grandfather. So I thought that was pretty good. And, then we see Alicent again trying to like kind of grasp for validation from her brother. I thought it was interesting they had that conversation, I thought it was interesting. She's like, hey, maybe instead of like, acting like a teenager and giving my flower to Kristen Cole, I could try to reconnect with the brother. My brother I haven't talked to you since he's 8, who literally has just grown up an orphan.
Yeah, it like right, so bad.
Oh, I never really thought about it like this, but it's kind of like, hey, dude, I know like no one in your family has talked to you in like 20 years, but we need you to go over to King's Landing. And you're basically, there's this dude, Kristen Cole. He's kind of a dick. He's been plowing your sister. You're going to follow him around, do whatever he says, and watch him kill people. Like,
that's okay. I get to see my dad. You'll not. He's coming home. Right when you're leaving, actually. So you're not going to get to see him at all. But
we see in him, we saw some of his flaws when he was with Kristen, but we see he's not grasping for his father's approval, or, he's just going with it. He's like, our dad knows exactly what he's doing. And we see kind of like the downfall of, Alicent was his favorite, but she was his favorite in the sense that he knew that she was right. She was the key
to get what he wanted,
to getting the high towers on the throne.
Yeah, like she's basically like, so Darren cool, and like, yeah, him and I bonded over not having our parents in our lives a lot. Actually, he's pretty good kid. Actually, he didn't grow up in this fucking toilet of a city. With all you psychopaths.
I know it is. It is interesting how much different he ends up than them. It makes sense.
I mean, being away from all of that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to him.
Well, right, we've seen like Alicent doesn't really see her like it's not to right, but the vibe it puts forward in the show is that more than seeing her children as her children, she sees them as people she sees them as a future king, a future queen. Aemond, he's got to assert himself as a Targaryen. And then, as she says, you all know what he is.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, that's why they grow up the way they do. And then, her other son doesn't grow up with those pressures. He gets to basically grow up and be whoever he wants.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's not even like the Hightower heir or anything. He's just,
no,
he's just a ward, right, of his uncle over there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure probably a cupbearer or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the third son, so
yeah, I guess he could potentially be the heir if this war goes real bad. But
yeah, usually I think a third son ends up probably being like in theory, well, again, there's so many Targaryens at this point. That's where kind of some of this mess comes from too, right? Because it's like, who's going to be because usually there's like, right? I think ideally it's like you have a few brothers. Okay, so like the oldest brother is the king. Yeah. The second oldest brother is the Prince of Dragonstone until the king's son can go in there. And then the third, I think, is usually like probably a knight or maybe eventually works toward, master of coin, works to being a hand of the king or something.
Yeah, it definitely seems too like the great houses. Like you have the heir, like the Starks. You had Brandon Stark is going to be the heir. Ned was probably going to be like the person who gets married and becomes the whoever, like the most advantageous political marriage. That's what Ned would have been. And then, Ben way down, he joins the Night Watch because, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're the third son.
Well, I think do they still have the traditions where and didn't they go over that in this, a certain portion of the Starks?
Yeah, they did. I don't know how much
I don't
that
know
is.
if
I
that,
mean, Ned seems cool with John joining the Night's Watch, and obviously there's tons of
well,
reasons for that. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah, be as far away as you can from King's Landing. That's perfect. Love to hear that. But yeah, I think it's still like somewhat good. I know in the books, John mentions that he once overheard Ben and Ed like drinking and talking about, like, oh, maybe Robert will give some of the gift back from the Night Watch to me, and we can set up, like, cadet branches in the gift to, like, be like a you know stopgap for wildlings to come down, and maybe, like, Rickard and John can be, the leaders of those, like, houses that become like the Karstarks are to the Starks. Like, they would be like new parts of the Stark branch. Like, I don't know if that really was ever going to come to fruition. An interesting idea.
yeah, for sure, it's interesting. Yeah, yeah, it always kind of. I mean, I think the second son is basically like, you just kind of keep your head down and pray, maybe pray your brother dies. No, no, it's usually like, right. They're usually the one they're supposed to be right by their side, and they carry their banner, kind of.
Yeah.
End up being like the right hand man, right? I think that's what Bran was supposed to be, probably, if he didn't get injured, right? And honestly, I think what we see with Ned is Ned wants John to be. I mean, I think Ned basically just wants John to be treated like the second son of the Starks, right? But we know that's for very different reasons, right?
Yeah.
If it was, I mean, Ned probably just wouldn't have fathered a bastard, to be honest. But
Yeah, right.
I just don't
And Ned does do a good job. Like, John almost leaves the Night Watch to go fight for Robb. Like, he tries to leave but gets brought back. And if they didn't let Theon go home to try to get his family in, Theon probably doesn't flip on the Starks. Let his dad and sister get in his head there.
Yeah, I mean, John's pretty like he's definitely more entitled in the books, I feel like
yeah,
because he really does. Ned does kind of do his best, and like John would have been a real prick at the Wall, and would not have survived if it hadn't been for Tyrion, right? I mean, they do really go there and show, but Tyrion's basically just like, dude,
they're gonna stab you to death in your sleep if you don't fucking cool it, man.
Yeah, he's like, I don't think you realize you've actually had it really good your whole life.
Yeah, compared to all these people who are here, like, you've had a cushy ass life.
Yeah, and actually, right, we see in the books, actually, like, John literally, John uproots the Night's Watch, and just for context, in the show, he's betrayed by the Night's Watch,
but in the book,
he literally, he finds out Ramsay is taking over Winterfell, and he thinks it's Arya there, and he's like, so at this point, he's brought the wildlings over. His steward, especially, like, really is uncomfortable with this. He arranges marriages, like, between the wildlings and other people in the north, and right, the other, like I said, the people, his subordinates in the Night's Watch, are not comfortable with this, but they're willing to work for him, and they sacrifice some of their expectations. And then John finds this out and goes, all right, I'm gonna go become Lord Stark. I'm gonna kill this dude. If anyone wants to join me, punk rock. And then just walks off. That's why he gets stabbed. And honestly, I don't see how that didn't, like, honestly, he deserved to get, like, how does he not get stabbed in that scenario?
Yeah, he was pushing his luck at that point.
Yeah, so that's the furthest the books have gone, but I mean, I don't see a scenario where he's like, hey guys, JK, I'm just gonna hang out here now and be the Lord Commander. Right. Like, no, he's gone. Like, they set it up differently because in the show, I don't know. Yeah, it's a pretty dick move, but I mean, John's young. He's headstrong,
Yeah. Well, one day we can do a rewatch maybe.
Yeah, we got way off topic.
Yeah. So anyone, Daron, cool guy. Everyone loves him. Plays the lute, rides a dragon.
He's not Darian the Young Dragon, which that connects to because I think John wanted to be Darian. He looked up to Darian the Young Dragon. He references him a lot. There's another Darian. That's not
all back together.
Darian we're talking about.
Yeah.
See, it all did come together. Full circle.
These are all John's family members. It's all.
That's all true. Yeah.
Not directly all of them, but tangentially related. But yeah. So that's kind of probably a trying moment for Allison to be like, okay, my only kid who's not fucked up is the only one who didn't spend any time with me. Like not great, but I guess we'll take that he's at least somewhat good here.
And then she goes to her daughter, and her daughter's like, excuse me, I was gonna poke my canary with a needle to see why it's not singing anymore. Like, you're gonna do weird stuff to these birds.
Yeah, right. And she's like, no, we're gonna go pray. Actually, I'm sure you've seen the edit of like Helena saying stuff and then cutting in Marty from True Detective just being like, I just need you to stop saying odd shit. But yeah, they almost die because Rhaenyra and Mysaria spend out a lot of food, cause a riot basically. It seems that Aegon's bros are pretty inept at protecting them. I think it also, how one of them cuts that guy's arm off? When she's looking at her arm later, is that like saying like basically he also like cut her arm because he's a fucking idiot? Or was that like one of the people who cut her arm?
I think it was one of the people.
Okay. Yeah.
Because wasn't that cut? That was kind of towards the beginning, and most of them did attempt. They did actually sheath their swords, from what I remember. And they do right. That's why it is kind of haphazard. Yeah, it was an interesting scene.
Olivia Cook took a fish to the face in real life.
Oh wow, really?
That was real. They had to do it twice to get a better shot of it. So shout out to her.
Yeah,
trooper.
That's good awesome. Acting.
Yeah.
I'm assuming she probably. I don't see them making an actress do that unless she wanted to.
No, yeah. The added double, and she's like, "I'll do it. It's fine." So shout out her. The reaction of the actress who plays Helena is so funny that like once you know the context of like it's a very real reaction of like, oh shit, she just got like nailed in the face by this fish. Yeah, like I wanted to give some credit for Allison. She was like putting her body in between the people and her daughter. Like that's
she's got some awareness of right, how important the loyalty, how important it is to have the some sort of a relationship with the people and how quickly they could kill them. This is something in the show we don't see a lot of, so it's always right. We don't see much interaction, and these we saw earlier in the season, like Helena it's just like, what do you mean I'm gonna like interact with these people? They mean nothing to me. We see that disconnect, So Allison has some experience, and I do think there's some guilt for all. She does say to her brother, like, the one normal kid I have wasn't raised by me. And Helena's probably the most, is it fair to say, the most innocent of her children, who has, who has been subject to probably the most abuse in some ways.
Oh yeah, and like, the person on like Team Green who least deserves everything that comes to her.
Yeah, and that.
Very
so
sad.
I do think that's like, we do see Allison kind of step up to protect her daughter,
Yeah. But I think that's mostly it. Aegon wakes up. Larys tells him, you gotta lock the fuck in, dude. Like Aegon's gonna fucking kill you if you don't like get your shit together.
Yeah. He's like, look, man, it sucks. I've been a cripple my whole life. Like,
yeah, he's a little bit of like Tyrion here talking to Bran, just being like,
yeah, it's very much
it's gonna be your life gonna be kind of horrible. You're still the king though, so you need to like get it together and be the king.
You're gonna look weird as shit.
Yeah, right.
You're probably not gonna be able to fuck anymore either. But
you got to make the best with the hand you're given.
No, I mean, it was great advice. Does Aegon take it? I don't even know if he understands.
I did specifically say you should not do this. Just for the record, I was saying you should not ride your dragon, but that's fine. You gotta listen to Laris.
But yeah, and what's interesting is, right, we see all of this stuff, and it kind of is like, oh man, the Greens are, kind of screwing up right now, right? There's some divide. Aemon's pushing his mom, Chris and Cole, away. There's just all this stuff going right, and then the commoners hate them. But then we go back and we see Rhaenyra's insecurity. We already touched upon this in the romance scene, but right, Rhaenyra doesn't see a way she wins this war because she sees the only way is she has to fight them, and she's never learned to fight.
Yeah.
And then we basically just have the encouragement scene from Misery. I just call her Lady Misery, Mysaria. But and that that obviously kind of cuts off the the political intrigue.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 2 more episodes left. I'm very sad. I wish we had 10 this season, but it's fine. Like I said, I'm just more frustrated that it just takes so long to make these seasons because I just love them. I love watching them. At least we'll get. What was that?
It's almost, I guess it was almost 2 years, huh? Like a year and a half.
It was 2 years.
No, because it was September, and then it was like it started in June, so like it probably ended in like November of 2, so like almost a year and a half. Year and a half, 2 years. That isn't terrible, honestly. It's been quicker. I mean, maybe that's just my standards at this point, because like I'm not as much like
I've heard
start new shows. It's all like watching stuff I'm already familiar with. So it's like when you're looking for a new release of something, it's just like takes years.
Yeah, I heard Severance is like almost like it's almost gonna be like 3 years between like season 1 and 2 for that, which that's ridiculous.
What show is this?
Severance on Apple. It's like their big hit show, and they took like 3 years to make it.
Is it good?
Apparently, it's very good. Yeah, I gotta check it out. I don't have Apple TV, but yeah. So, I mean, other than that, if you're looking for something to watch in between, Peacock dropped all of their episodes of For Those About to Die, which I've enjoyed.
I just started I just finished episode 2 today.
Yeah.
I thought
the actor who plays Ramsay in Game of Thrones, being a morally gray to morally black character. I think he's a good actor. I think, I always felt bad for him because he was so good as Ramsay, but that was like his first big role where like people were probably like, oh, I don't know, do we want to cast him? People just look at him as like this horrible villain. So I'm glad
anything but that, especially.
Yeah, I'm glad to see he's getting a chance to something else because I do think he's a very good actor, and I think
it's a slightly different character.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting that he almost is Jon Snow. He lost to Kit Harington. It was between them.
Yeah, Jon Snow would be. He would have been a weird choice as Jon Snow, but
we can only see it now.
Yeah, but it's just like he's not an actor. Like, I wonder if he's gonna get typecasted into like doing only like shows that are like kind of medieval, like world history type, fantasy type stuff. Because there are actors like Sean Bean. Yeah, you can see why he gets thrown into that stuff a lot, right? The guy who plays older version of King Robert. I don't really think he's one of those at all, and he is a very good actor. I could see him really playing like, being in any sort of TV show, honestly.
Yeah, he's in one episode of Westworld as a very small character, and that's like a future show. Westworld did this weird thing where they would just have like the most like random like one-off like guy Carlo Esposito, the guy who played Gus on
Yeah. Yep.
Breaking Bad. He was in like 2 episodes of Westworld as like a
he's in like everything. He's in like every show that's trying to be like the next Breaking Bad.
Right. Yeah. Talking about being typecast also.
Yeah, I mean, and what is it? The Boys, yeah. It's
right. Yeah, almost the exact same. Yeah. But always great, obviously.
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time for this one. So, Ryan, anything that we didn't get to that you wanted to?
No, it'd just be interesting to see how this all plays out. Yeah, it's like I'm more unsure of what's going to happen than I have been this far in the season. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
it'll be cool to see how it plays out next week, and I'm looking forward to coming back.
Me too. We'll try to get more guests as this goes on, more from our podcast network. And then we have been talking behind the scenes a little bit for the Rings of Power podcast, so I do expect that to happen for real. I'm excited for it. I'm going to watch one.
We're going to get one. Yeah,
I think we'll get at least a few people I think interested to helping us out on that. So that'll be fun. Hopefully I won't get as obsessed with the world of Lord of the Rings. I don't know if I can.
Lord of the Rings, it's different kind of a thing, but like I'm probably going to deep dive again when I catch up. If you read, I mean, I would have at least like read the Silmarillion.
Right. Yeah, I got it before the season comes out, so I can.
Doesn't touch upon a ton of stuff like I mean, there's also a lot of stuff that they fill in with context here, but
right.
There's a lot of the stuff in this happens after the Silmarillion.
Yeah. So stay for this channel for that main channel. We could get everything. Got some new videos cooking there, and then that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.